Hi, and welcome to the first episode of my podcast. I'm Megan Burke. I'm a graphic designer, brand designer, and font maker, and I'm starting a new venture. Lately, I've been coming to terms with the fact that even though I love graphic design and branding, I have a lot of other interests, namely running a business and talking to other entrepreneurs and other business owners. I want to start documenting the things that I'm learning all about graphic design and running a business every day because I realized that I could be absorbing this information, but I could also be sharing it with the rest of the world. Essentially, this podcast is a journey of the things that I'm learning, and I'm going to teach you the same things along the way. Eventually, I want to interview people and ask them the questions that I'm dying to know. How do they run their business? What were their numbers like? What are their margins? How did they do it? What inspired them? I want to get down to the nitty-gritty of how other people are successful and what motivates them to be in the business anyway. Because at the end of the day, yes, a business is about making money, but most people are pretty passionate about what they're doing, especially in a world where there's a lot of design or hospitality. People are usually pretty passionate, and I want to talk to those people. I want to work with those people. So it may be that a lot of the people I interview along the way are the kinds of people that I want to work with. I want to build a network of really interesting, passionate people, get to know them, get to know how their brain works, and then share that with the world. Anyway, grab your coffee, buckle in. You and I are going to have a great time learning all about business. I want to start by talking about some things that I've learned most recently. So 2 weeks ago, I was laid off from this job that I was working for the majority of 2023. Because of that, I've taken a step back to really look at what I want out of my freelance business, out of my business, and what I want out of life. What is fulfilling? I had a realization a few weeks ago that my day-to-day looked nothing like what I actually wanted it to look like in the long run. And I started to really think about what I did want and what that would look like on a daily basis. Something I started doing was going through my Instagram followings and also seeking out posts or articles about people that really inspired me. I found that most of the people that inspired me the most were multidisciplinary. A lot of them had a focus in design, but also ran multiple businesses of their own. On the search, it showed me that it is possible to have a lot of interests and to still put cool stuff into the world. With all of that under my belt, I had to sit down and write down all of the things that I actually want to accomplish. It's kind of like casting a wide net, but it was really helpful for me. I assume if you're listening to this, you already know my work a little bit and you probably are multi-passionate as well. Most of the people that I know and most of my friends are multi-passionate. Call it ADHD if you want, but I think people who are inherently creative, they are fueled by the desire to create. And something that is in my case, but probably yours too, is when you are designing for a job, you are designing all the time and it's to a specific deliverable. It's to somebody else's taste. And that's fulfilling and amazing, but sometimes you just have this desire to create out of essentially nothing or to create out of the experiences you have in your life. And you can't always do that with a client, like you're creating to their experiences. And so it's a different framework that you kind of enter it with. So when you want to just create inherently, sometimes that comes out in different ways. For me, it comes out in like, maybe I want to do pottery, or maybe I want to make something in jewelry. Maybe I want to do something three-dimensional. But then also, what if I want to open a coffee shop, maybe a bar someday. Maybe I want to throw really cool events. Like a pop-up event is an experience. I want to do more than just the literal branding. I want to do more than the 2D. And you probably feel the same, like we want to do experiences and things that are tangible, things that are tactile, things that have a purpose and are beautiful, right? In the past, I've looked at it like maybe my clients will be the ones making the experience and I'll just design it. But I realized that I want to have more of a say, more creative direction in the rest of the company, rest of the experience, the rest of the experience the customer is going to have. All that to say, that's why I'm starting this podcast. I just want to ramble about this. I want to talk about it with other people. I want to hear what you have to say, what you want to learn. We're all going to learn it together. I want to segue into talking about value, and that is in what you bring to the table. So I hear it all the time on TikTok, and you probably do too. In the context of content creators or influencers, what you want is for your content to bring value to somebody. That's what keeps them engaged and watching. That's what keeps them coming back or following you. I think the same thing applies to running a business in a slightly different way, but really not that different at all. Anything you put out into the world, anything that is meant to be consumed or viewed by another person should bring them value. Now, the value isn't necessarily like, here's how you make $100. It could be value as in it just made their day a little brighter. But what can you put out into the world that other people will enjoy without making it all about, well, people like what I'm posting? I hope that you understand what I'm saying there. I'm trying to figure out how I can bring value to people besides strictly doing the branding for their businesses. For the past 2 years, it's been that I make fonts and digital download packets, and people have been using them and enjoying them and loving them, which makes me really happy. It makes me want to make more of them. It is something that is spurred on by, I'm inspired by somewhere in the world, somewhere I've traveled, a piece of history, and other people who are inspired by the same things gravitate towards the aesthetic, the shape language, the visual storytelling, and they want to use it as well. And then they get to use it in their businesses, and it's really cool. Now, this podcast is another way that I want to bring value to people. I love learning. I love learning so much, but teaching is not my forte. And I realized that I really learn from a one-on-one interaction. I want to interview people. I want to get to know exactly what makes them tick. And I want to ask specific questions that other people aren't asking. If you feel the same way, stick around, because that is all this is about. But who am I and why should you listen to me? Let's go through some of the reasons why. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, and we'll get to know each other a little bit. In high school, I was dead set on being an animator at Pixar or Disney. I wanted to do that so bad. And if it wasn't animation, I started to kind of focus in on character design. But if you know anything about the animation world, that's the most competitive aspect of the industry. I visited the Disney animation studios a couple of times and started to study animation at school, but quickly found out that that wasn't exactly a viable option for me. I ended up with a business degree, and I actually think that was one of the best things I ever did. For a while, I was kind of disappointed because my goals were so high to work at Disney, but I needed to know more about business. I needed to have more of an intellectual understanding, and that's exactly what I got. After studying at the University of Texas at Dallas and graduating with a bachelor's in business administration, I went on to work some freelance for animation, and I also had one job on a movie, and then I also worked at a video game studio. And that leads me to the present day. I have been freelancing doing my branding business for almost 5 years now, which is crazy. It's been full-time for the majority of those 5 years, except for the last year or so that I was working at the job. I have a perspective that is very analytical. I love design and I love beautiful things, but not just for the sake of it. Sometimes I worry that makes my graphic design not as good as other people's could be. Maybe my sense of design isn't as well curated. Maybe I don't know enough about graphic design because I studied more marketing and business classes than anything else. But I think that makes me happy actually, because I don't have to focus on being the best designer in the world. I want to work with cool people, it's kind of hard to explain, but that's my little ramble about where I came from and what I'm on the way to do. Now let's talk freelance business and what I'm doing right now to be as successful as possible. As I said, it's day one of me being technically unemployed since I just got laid off, but I have this freelance business, so it's not fully unemployed, you know what I mean? Anyways, something I've been doing is, I knew this was kind of coming, so I've been ramping up and putting more ads or boosted posts up on Instagram. 2 weeks ago, I posted my 2024 goals and said I want to work with coffee shops and I want to do a collab with a potter and et cetera, et cetera. The cool thing is that post specifically has gained a lot of attraction, and I've had some really cool people reach out to me. In the last couple of days, 2 people with ranches have reached out for brand logos, for logo marks, the stamp, you know what I mean? The cattle brand. People are already reaching out to me about this, and I think that's so cool. I'm starting to get booked out into February already. It is January 15th. And I've already signed on 2 clients with ranches, and I'm in talks with maybe doing a collab with a potter I really like. So I'm already so excited. I already feel the traction is growing in just a short amount of time. So with that said, I really recommend boosting posts and running ads. You don't have to put a ton of money behind it, but you do have to show what you want to be working on. That way the people who are looking for someone like you see that you're looking for someone like them. I'm so thankful for the internet. It connects people from all over the world, but even just locally, they maybe would have never heard of me, but they're like, hey, I have a ranch and I want a logo. And then they see my fonts and they're like, well, she can make a logo. Of course I can. There's a lot about manifesting that is just putting it out there. If there is one thing you take away from my podcast today, it is that you need to just go for it. You need to just ask for it. You need to just state that you want something. Yes, a lot of growth happens in the background. It's a little bit quiet. It's not glamorous. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is ask and you shall receive, essentially. especially with the internet. You put out there what you want and people are going to see it. You boost a post and put $100 behind it, 1,000 people are going to see it, and that's 1,000 people you would have never reached otherwise. Something that has been sitting with me a lot lately is I saw a clip of an interview with Taylor Swift when she was like 14 or something like that. And I think she was told by Luke Bryan or something like that, that if she wanted to sell 500,000 records, she needed to meet 500,000 people. And that zapped into my brain and it just made sense. Branding and working with other businesses is the exact same thing. Graphic design is the exact same thing. You have to go meet the people. Since I got laid off, I started applying for jobs and I saw an internship posting for a local like event space. And I was like, well, I mean, maybe it's a paid internship. I don't know. Like they seem cool. Like, let's see what happens. They were like, hey, you're overqualified and this is an unpaid internship. We probably won't be hiring like a real position for a while. I was like, oh, okay, no big deal. Like happy to do a couple of free posters for you if like you want. Like, I think you're cool. Like I'd love to just, get that under my belt, do some event posters because I haven't done any in a long time. And they were like, okay, we'll keep you in mind. Literally a week later, they reached out and they were like, actually, we do need a free poster. And it is for an Eclipse event. And I'm stoked for the upcoming Eclipse. I saw the last one in Fredericksburg and I'm definitely not missing the next one. So by the way, if you like space at all or just natural phenomena, it's a plural, I think. Anyway, get yourself a pair of glasses and be prepared to watch the eclipse. I think it's April 8th. Anyways, I'm so excited to do this poster. I'm really thankful that they reached out to me and it is actually on my plate. I haven't done it yet, so I need to do that this week. Intermission because the lighting was good and I got ready, so I needed to do my podcast first. But I'm gonna keep this first episode kind of short and sweet. I plan to talk about time management. I'm planning to talk about contracts, invoices, how to charge. Honestly, how to charge is a huge thing, especially for beginner designers. Beginner even to mid-level sometimes, like how you price things is varied depending on who you're working with and how much your time is worth. And something I was planning to say, and I'll save it for a longer episode, is you don't want to charge hourly, almost ever. I charge hourly just for extra revisions, but the base rate is more like the value the project will bring. So I've had a lot of people that say like, $5,000 is too high. But I know for a fact that local designers are charging like $20K for not much bigger of a project. So it all comes down to finding the balance, finding what works for your client, what works for you. I digress, that was a little bit of a side note. I will do an entire episode on budgeting and pricing if you want to know about that. I do want to preface this by saying, don't take any legal advice from me. Like I'm just showing you what I've done and what's worked for me. And if that works for you too, that's amazing. But I do recommend having like an accountant or a lawyer to ask questions from. I'm actually in the market for an accountant or just a financial advisor right now. So if you're a business owner and you have one who you'd recommend to me, like please let me know and I will share them on my podcast. Something I've been learning lately is kind of back to the social media thing, but there is a girl on TikTok, I think her name is Justine's Camera Roll or something like that. She's posting every day on how she's going to grow to be an influencer, which is super inspiring. I don't want to be like famous or very popular, but I want to have a platform to share cool design with the world. And it doesn't even have to be my own design, just like things I think are cool, I'm sharing them. I want a place that I can share them that people will see it. So I'm actually starting a series on my TikTok where I'm gonna post every day the rest of this year how I am going to achieve my dreams with this design business. Well, and podcast too. It's a culmination of a couple of things I've already touched on, which is you just have to state what you want and show people what you're doing so that they can come along. And that's what I'm doing. Like I want you along on this journey with me. I want you to see like what I'm learning. I've already said this a couple of times, but that's the whole point. And I was already kind of starting this podcast, but when I heard about Justine's Camera Roll, I was like, that's also exactly like what I'm trying to do here. I don't have a fully perfectly formed idea of what I want out of a career, out of a job yet, but I have like a 75% good idea and I might as well just start now. So I'm starting now, even if it's imperfect. Like I'm filming this right now on an iPhone. It's what I have. I haven't bought a microphone yet, and that's okay. I'm excited to challenge myself to grow in a lot of different aspects and things that I'm interested in. I started learning how to DJ last year and I really loved it, but it's not worth it for me to spend all my time pursuing that right now. Like that's just fun for me. But it's something I could kind of take into the podcast world, a little bit of music production, a little bit of DJing, like definitely keep an eye out for some cool music stuff down the road, some cool sound production. I'm not there yet, but it will come. And you can see all my little trials and errors along the way if you stick around and watch all of these or listen. Maybe you're just listening. Anyway, I'm not much of a writer, and to be honest, I actually hate typing. So If you've worked with me, you probably know I like to send an audio message now and then. And this podcast is a way of having an audio message with anybody who wants to tune in. So thank you for showing up today. I'm not sure yet on the cadence of how much I'll be posting these, but I'm gonna get started and just see what I can do. Let me know what you want to hear. Let me know what you want to learn, what you want to learn from me specifically. And let me know who else you would want to learn from, other people I could interview. A few people that stick out and I think I might want to interview are like local business owners, people who own bars that I think are really cool. I'm gonna go in and photograph them in their spot and ask them why they got started. I want to interview people like Maggie on TikTok. She's the Hot Smart Rich Girl. Wait, her club is like the Hot Smart Rich Girls, something like that. She's really, really cool and really inspiring to me. So I would love to interview her and talk about more of a financial aspect, more of an investment aspect to business. Side note, if you're a designer and you're listening to this, there's a whole other world out there that you maybe don't even really know anything about, but maybe you should know about. And that's like the investments and the equity, all these other parts of business that are not strictly just like being a contractor for them. I'm hoping to shed some light on all of that, even if I need to interview some other people to get their expertise along the way. I forgot to say, I want to do another episode entirely on fonts and why I got started and how I did that. So that will probably be episode 2. So stick around if you want to hear about it. I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for now because I actually have a brand package I need to deliver today and it's already 2 o'clock and I still have an entry level meeting. I still have an intro call with a new client, so I've got to get moving. Thanks for sticking around. Stay tuned for episode 2 about fonts and let me know what else you want to hear. Thanks, bye.